Okay, this is Trophy Gold, the Leviathan's Bridge. I had to remember what incursion we're doing. So we are starting a new series in our ongoing campaign, and we have a new player. So I'm going to go through just my normal Trophy Gold introductory stuff. But before I do that, I would like for all of us to go around and introduce ourselves. So when I call on you, say your name, your pronouns, and anything else you'd like for us to know about you. So I'll start. My name is Jason. I use he, him, and I am the publisher of Trophy, and I love the game. Obviously, I'm super excited to get to run it as much as I do, and I host podcasts and do other publishing things as well. Let's go to Fraser.
Hi, I'm Fraser Simons. I've been with the Gauntlet for a very long time now. And pronouns he, him. I play Ethelinda, and I'm happy to be here.
Fabulous, thank you. Drew.
Hi, I'm Drew. I use he, him pronouns. I also am a big fan of Trophy and seem to play it more than I expected when I started. I'm currently getting started writing stuff for the game and making character creators, and I'm really enjoying it. I'm happy to be here.
Awesome, thank you. Brian.
I'm Brian Sago, and hang on, we got a little audio feedback here.
Yeah, when you got two people in the same house, headphones are kind of a necessity.
How about now?
It sounds okay to us, but yeah.
Okay. Anyway, Brian Sago, I use the he pronoun. Gosh, I jumped into Trophy with Kickstarter and I'm kind of neck deep in it at this point. Working on some illustrations for the game, writing a little bit, playing a heck of a lot of it, and enjoy a lot.
Fabulous, thank you. And we are being joined anew first time by Sarah. Sarah.
Hello, I am also somebody who is a passionate gamer. This is probably my second round of Trophy. I've played with it a little bit. I come through role-playing through D&D like so many others. I also use he, she, hers, and I'm just excited to dig in and play with you guys.
Fabulous, welcome, thank you. I'm going to do a procedure called CATS. CATS is an acronym that stands for Concept, Aim, Tone, and Subject Matter. I like to do this at the start of a series just to sort of establish some basic expectations for what this is going to be like. And so the concept of Trophy Gold. Trophy Gold is a game about desperate treasure hunters going into the dark and forgotten places of the world in order to acquire treasures because they need the money to satisfy some very expensive goal they each have. The game is meant to have a sort of hard Scrabble kind of feel. It's really similar to like very classic like Dungeons and Dragons in terms of its aesthetic and how it plays, or not how it plays, but like how it's supposed to feel kind of. And it's it can be like a little grim and dark, but not always. We've definitely had sessions in this campaign that are a little bit lighter. The actual incursion that we're running is called Leviathan's Bridge by Gabriel Robinson. I'm not going to say too much about it, except to say that it was the winner of the contest that we ran last year. And I have run it once before, but I don't have a recording of that. So I wanted to kind of get a recording of it in. And I'm excited to run it for you all. The aim, continuing with cats, of today, we are going to reintroduce the returning characters. Then we're going to meet Sarah's character. And then we have a little bit of housekeeping to do with Fraser's character because Fraser couldn't make it last time and we did like a housekeeping phase. So we'll do that and then we will start Leviathan's Bridge. After we are done, maybe like the last 5 to 10 minutes of the session, we'll do a little feedback debrief thing. The tone of this particular incursion is very, how do I put it? So Gabriel wrote this incursion as a sort of, it's kind of a commentary on like D&D and goblins, and specifically how D&D represents goblins, which is to say that it's not usually a very like friendly representation. He intends for Leviathan's bridge to be to show a culture, right? Like a full culture. And so the tone of the incursion is very much like about the natural world, the environment, plants and animals, this sort of day-to-day culture of these people. It's not even so much like a desperate grab for treasure. It's kind of something different. It's more about like integrating your characters into a community, which is maybe a kind of a slightly weird thing to do for a brand new player, I suppose, but I think we'll all manage. So it's not like the typical like dungeon crawl type adventure. Okay, so that's just something to kind of point out there. In terms of subject matter, there's nothing in the module that I think is particularly like jarring or that might like upset anyone. I don't think. We will have 3 safety tools on the table. The first is the open door policy. The second is the X card, and the third is lines and veils. The open door policy is basically if you need to leave for any reason, you can do so. You don't have to explain yourself. You could just go. In terms of the X card, the way that works is if something happens in the game that you just find objectionable, either I don't know, just for some reason, just really like sits wrong with you for some reason, whether it's something about the story or just something about the content, you can say X card or type it in the chat. We will pause play and I may ask you like what's being X carded specifically, but I won't ask why. But we'll change whatever it was and then kind of make that change and then move forward. And then we'll also be using a tool called lines and veils. Lines are things that we are not going to be doing in the game at all. It's just not something we're going to have in the story. And then veils are things that we're okay with being in the game. We just prefer not to role play it. And so I'm going to say what my lines and veils are, and then I'm going to wait about 30 seconds or so to give you all a chance to either chime in on chat or on Discord your lines and veils, and I will make sure the group is conveyed to the group as it needs to be. So my only line is going to be sexual violence. I don't want to have any kind of sexual violence in the game, so we're not going to do that. In terms of veils, I'm going to put torture behind a veil. I'm okay with it being a thing. I just don't want to role play that. And I'm also going to put violence against like small children. I don't really want to role play that either. So those are my lines and veils. I will now wait for you all to speak up.
As you know, mine are pretty much the same as yours, Jason.
It looks like there's a message in Discord too. Veiled spiders.
Yep, I got it. Spiders, perfect. Sounds good. Okay. So let's talk about let's talk about the game a little bit. I want to just go over. No, let's introduce characters. That's better. Let's do that next. So I'm going to introduce the returning characters. If everybody will just just tell us the basics about your character, their occupation, their background, their drive, anything else you think is interesting about them, kind of where they're at in the story right now is also very helpful. Let's start with Brian and Korkaluk.
Sure. So I'm playing Korkaluk, an orphaned mannequin. So I'm not a human. I'm a construct made out of porcelain and twigs and vines. I am an antiquarian by trade, I guess you want to say, whatever. And my drive is to find a descendant of my creator, Mashiko. She was a potter, and she's deceased. We found out a couple incursions ago that I was responsible for her death. But trying to find one of her descendants in the hope that they can teach me to craft replacement parts and sort of, that's my goal. Did you ask about burdens? I'm sorry, I can't recall.
Oh, tell us whatever you want. This is just introducing the characters. Whatever you would think would be interesting. So
That's
conditions
good.
would be great.
Oh, conditions. Good point. I'm in love with the porcelain-faced beetle woman, Patience Davies, who's been popping up here and there. And what are my other conditions? I have a spider-threaded wrist that she repaired for me. And way back at Hester's Mill, I shared breath with a bear, and I had a birthing dream, which may or may not come up.
We haven't really explored that one too much since then, but that might be kind of this. I think this is a good incursion to do it, because this incursion has a very like spiritual kind of element to it. So fabulous, thank you. Drew, tell us about Osto, please.
I am playing Osto, the young and younger than he was not too long ago, cured beast bitten. Osto has recently become, through some time magic complications, become a 12-year-old boy again, which is coupled with his conditions of his blood being tainted by old Kaldur, being marked by a bear spirit, and being unable to tell a lie. And he has the occupation of Ox, with the skills of destruction, persistence, strength, transformation, and knows a lot about beasts.
Fabulous. And I think you're probably just at the cutoff of violence against children. So small children. Once you hit 12 or 13, I think I care less. Personally.
So if he was younger, would he be immortal?
Do what?
If he was younger, would he be immortal?
Yeah, yes, you would never get ruined. Okay. Let's go to Ethelinda.
Sure. So Ethelinda is presentation, but she is actually younger, like 25, 30, and is like a older grad student of a Star Seer type college that we've been slowly defining. Her drive is to find the last piece of the Centennial puzzle. She's a grief-stricken poet. She's got a ritual for a mirage and skills that are mostly academic, except for mending, I suppose. And she is inhabited and haunted by the siren, as one does.
Fantastic. These characters, we've had them so long now, they have this like very built up like portent around them, right? Which I think is great. Fantastic. Okay, so Sarah, tell us about your character Ibu Gleneth, and at this point, just whatever you know about them so far. It's okay if it's not much.
Sure. So Ibu is an honorific, so just Gleneth for gameplay. She is a weaver and an unmasked fae. Her one and only drive in this world is to humiliate the Chancellor of Yagathar Lyceum. He is a jerk, and I look forward to ruining him.
Fabulous. I love it. What about your, do you have any rituals?
I do. I took Unravel because as a weaver and some of my armor and that sort of thing, I'm going to have a lot of threads weaving in and out of this character, both literally and metaphorically.
I love it. And what is your initial backpack equipment?
I have a bag of glass marbles. I have 30 of them, 3 pots of tar, some candles, and I use a series of veils and bracers as armor. And
Nice.
this character also has a lot of hair, and therefore like hat pins and needles and that sort of thing, that pens, and just imagine any GIF that has a whole series of stuff in their hair. She's constantly pulling things out of nowhere.
And so the hairpins and needles are like your weapons. That's pretty cool.
Yes.
Yeah, love that. That's great. Awesome. I don't think I have any questions at this point. I will be, throughout the game, I will be asking a lot about the Chancellor of Yogyakarta Lyceum. So be thinking about that. But otherwise, I think that sounds good to me. I do want to talk about a couple of quick sort of like just rules things about Trophy Gold. So the thing about Trophy Gold is there is a pretty distinct separation between character knowledge and out of character knowledge, like player knowledge, right? And we kind of bounce back and forth between them quite a bit. And in the most sort of overt way this happens is through a concept in the game called the set and the set goal. So the adventures are divided up into what are called sets, and each of the sets has a set goal. And the set goal is often something that the characters don't even know about. It's just something that we know about as players, and we kind of make a decision as players, like when and how we want to accomplish the set goal, if at all. It might be a set goal you have no interest in. That's fine too. But the way you accomplish the set goals is they can be accomplished just sort of by the characters taking action in the story and that would accomplish it. Or you can decide as players to spend what are called hunt roll tokens in order to automatically achieve the set goal. And so the hunt roll tokens sort of give you as a player a little bit of control over like when things happen in the story and when to sort of move on to the next thing, right? You can also use hunt roll tokens to just find treasure. Your character's number one remit is to find treasure. And so spending hunt roll tokens is one way to guarantee you get a treasure, especially if you're kind of you're in like a cool place and you want to treasure from this cool place. That's a great time to spend a hunt roll token to get something from there. The other thing I want to talk about in terms of the rules are in this game, players have a pretty high degree of control over the narrative and a lot of sort of authorial authority. And that comes out in a lot of different ways, but the main way it comes out is via this concept called the devil's bargain. So essentially, on one of the die rolls, in order to get another dice for your die pool, you can accept what's called the devil's bargain from another player or myself. And the devil's bargain is something that happens in the story no matter what. Whether you succeed or fail what you're trying to do, the devil's bargain happens, always happens. And so the devil's bargain is kind of an opportunity as a player for you to sort of shape the story a little bit. And so you can use it to introduce story elements that maybe no one even had considered, or to explore different aspects of things that have already been introduced. It's pretty wide open, and you're invited to sort of go in all kinds of crazy directions with the devil's bargains. I'm pretty flexible in terms of being able to handle whatever you want to do with the devil's bargain. If I think a devil's bargain just kind of fundamentally doesn't fit, or just kind of is too contrary to the incursion, I will say so, or I'll try to edit it a little bit. But otherwise, I'm pretty open to whatever you want your devil's bargains to be. And the game has lots of opportunities like this, just chances for you to speak as a player, to say, this is what I think should happen in the story, right? So so just kind of keep that in mind a little bit. It's a little different from like a traditional role-playing game in the sense that, like, I as the GM am not like the sole content creator, the sole, like, controller of the story. And so with all that said, we do have to do a little bit of housekeeping with Ethelinda because we didn't have Fraser last time. And so if everybody will just kind of sit tight while we do that. Ethelinda, we need you to do Hearthfire. So you have currently 5 gold, you have 5 ruin, and 5 burdens. And you also have some treasures you can cash in for gold as well. But go ahead and you need to meet your burdens, and we decided it's only half burdens for the last incursion, so you just need to meet 3. And so erase gold for that. And now take a look at the various Hearthfire options and let us know what you'd like to start doing. Get those done.
I'll definitely need to heal myself. So I'll spend 1 gold to bring down ruin once.
Do you have a household too?
I do, yeah.
That'll drop it another 1 as well.
Okay, so then I'm out of gold.
Oh, no. A household is just having a household does it for free. It makes the ruin go down 1.
Oh. Okay.
And you can clear any conditions that you wish. And
I like both of them.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, good. And you can get that last ruin taken care of if you do one of the healing scene options there. I think you only have one left, but you're welcome to do it. Or you can spend a gold.
I can spend an additional gold.
Yep, you can spend as much gold as you want to heal. So
I think I'll do that and then keep that one in the pocket.
Okay.
Just in case.
Yeah,
It's
fair.
rare that I have extra gold. So.
Okay, so you got your ruin down to the starting value of 2, so that's great. Would you like to stash anything in your hoard?
Maybe I'll get rid of the vestments. I have
Okay.
3 vestments worth 1 gold.
So that's 3
I would
gold
like
total.
I'd like to wear my crown. So
Okay. Oh, we have to talk about the egg too. So the Starlight Serpent egg is a really valuable thing. It's worth 5 gold for starters, and it's also a magical item. And if you want to keep it as a magical item, you have to increase your burdens by 1. But I will tell you what it does before you make that decision if you want. So what it does is essentially it makes your magic more powerful so long as you are performing the magic underneath starlight. So the egg is like almost like it draws starlight in and kind of acts as a magical focus, right? So if you're doing magic and there's starlight overhead, the egg can help you. You get like an extra light die whenever you do a ritual under starlight with it. So pretty powerful. There is a 1 in 6 chance every time you use it that the egg will hatch. So so the egg will hatch, and then it no longer is as valuable to be sold as an egg, but you have a baby Starlight Serpent theoretically. And I'm going to leave this part a little bit more vague, but depending on the type of magic that you use when you are using the egg as a focus, it affects the Starlight Serpent inside. So it might be a different kind of Starlight Serpent or a different serpent altogether.
I want it. So I'll sell the vestments to meet the burden.
Okay, so so in terms of all you have to do, your burdens, you don't have to meet the burdens this time. Just that's for next time. It only goes up right now. So
okay.
But yeah, so your burdens go up to 6 for keeping the egg, but you do have the egg now. And if you want to sell your vestments, that's 3 gold. You can pop that into your hoard, or well, you have to. You have to spend it. You can't keep any extra gold. So
I think all 3 were just worth 1.
Oh, 1 total. Oh, okay, got it.
So. Yeah. So I'll pop it in there, and then I'll narrate a personal triumph related to my occupation. And I think we just see a younger Ethelinda in class presenting like this very intricate, almost dissertation on the intersection of poetry and each different star. And it's like a very long, very nerdy, almost like Hermione Granger in class presenting a PowerPoint thing, except with lots of different drawings and stuff like that, and parchments that she's spreading up on the board and stuff.
Fabulous, thank you. And since you used your household, you also get to put a memento in your household from the last adventure from Temple of the Peerless Star. You can do it, or you can ask one of the players to do it.
Yeah, I don't have an idea myself, so if somebody else has one.
I might have a thing to give you. Do you recall that I grabbed that drawing, or sorry, the journal with the drawings of constellations from the footlocker of the acolyte?
Oh, right, the ones that like didn't make any sense ever, right?
Right, and to my knowledge, that's just a worthless sort of journal, but perhaps it'll be useful for your research and is a cute little memento to you can add to it or something. I don't know.
Sure, yeah, that sounds good. Yeah,
take it away.
Awesome. Is that all good, Fraser? Anything else you want to do for Hearthfire?
I don't think so. I think that would be it.
We had a quick Hearthfire thing that we had kind of left off when we finished recording last time.
What was it? Remind me.
I was going to do a training.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Training montage.
Yeah, let's do it. So,
so I was going to add the skill trading in my kind of quest to find a descendant of Mashiko, a ceramic artist. It seems like it adds on to the antiquarian business. And my thought was that my mentor is the bartender from the Sulking Auspicious Salt Father, where I bought interest. That, you know, they're teaching me how to haggle with people, get them a little bit inebriated, and then you make your move or something. I don't know.
Okay, love that. And so that the skill is trading, you said?
Trading, yes.
Trading, okay.
And there is a question about how does this increase your burdens? I've lost it on the sheet here. There we go. And here's my thought, and I think Arthur would approve of this, is that my burdens are that Scum is always hanging around that bar, and I've got to like kind of keep him inebriated a little bit, but also like keep him from pestering the clientele and somehow tend to his well-being.
I love it. That's great. Good. Okay, awesome. Yeah, go ahead and note your new skill, and that increases your burdens by 1. Okay, anything else before we begin Leviathan's Bridge?
I just want to say that I really want to get a ring of shooting stars now to complete my ensemble.
Okay, sounds good. I will duly noted. Okay. Awesome. We can start, I guess. We got a little bit of time before we have to go on break. So, Leviathan's Bridge. The floating mangrove city of Seeker's Rest has long been a bastion for reclusive goblin seers and lore masters who sought to protect their sacred texts and accumulated knowledge from pillagers. It serves as a home to all refugees who may not be welcome elsewhere. The layered grove forms the foundation of the city, while the Leviathan's Bridge stretches overhead. This is an arboreal monument of twisting vines, branches, and the immense, weightless bones of a whale, culminating in a temple formed from the whale's massive skull. It is said that generations of seers still sit in eternal contemplation of the glowing star which rests within this cavernous temple. Priceless scriptures and artifacts of an advanced civilization lie scattered within the twisted mangrove, shrouded by mists and largely hidden from the outside world, save the few who find their way there seeking refuge or wisdom. Now, this incursion has a slightly different, there's a slightly different way to meet your burdens here. So you can meet your burdens in the normal way by finding gold or treasure equal to gold, and then at the end, cashing it in to meet your burdens. Or alternatively, you can meet your burdens by reaching the temple at the end of the Leviathan's Bridge and praying there and achieving some sort of insight about your character. If you do that, you can meet your burdens that way, because at that point you have been sort of spiritually and personally satisfied. And for this adventure, that's good enough. And it reinvigorates you and gets you sort of galvanized to continue to achieve your drive, right? So 2 options there, right? Now, if it looks like you're not going to make it to the temple and you are and things are going a little pear-shaped, you may need to just grab whatever treasures you can find, but you have the option of taking this more sort of spiritual approach, right? And so with that said, Glenneth has joined your group. Now, the group was sort of waiting to go on this this sort of expedition beneath the ruins of the city that they had been kind of staying in. But we've put that on hold. There was some complications related to that mission, that Eotho did not want to discuss with you, and he has sent you away, but he may call you back. In real world terms, I just wasn't ready to do it, so we're doing this instead. But so that's on pause still. But in the meantime, and it has been a number of weeks since you were at the Temple of the Peerless Star, you have met up with Gleneth, and Gleneth, I think it was your idea to seek out Seeker's Rest. And so I guess my question for you, Gleneth, is how will finding Seeker's Rest and maybe even getting access to the temple there, how will that help you in your burning desire to humiliate the Chancellor of Yogyakarta Lyceum?
That is an excellent question. I heard a rumor that within the temple, there are all sorts of, like you said, pieces of these lost civilizations and discarded relics. And I am hoping that I might find something that I could use to entice the Chancellor to take a meeting with me.
Nice, good, I love it. So this is you want to find something to sort of.
He doesn't take my calls, and I feel like
yeah.
he needs a little bribery.
A little bit of bribery, good. Something that's good. I like it. I'm gonna put a note for myself in the chat. Fabulous. I think, so I guess the next question, well, I think the obvious answer here is, three of you here, treasures and relics, and you come and you go running, right? I mean, that's been the thing. But I am kind of curious. I do want to kind of go around the table and just find out, out of character, maybe, this is maybe not in character, but out of character, do you think there's some sort of like spiritual aspect of reaching that temple that might be helpful for your characters, something that could help your character in some way? Whoever has a thought, just speak.
My immediate thought is it might help rewind time for Ethelinda.
Like to make you back to your original age?
Yeah, like, because I had described it initially as her being old because she was in that trance waiting for people in that I can't remember what the realm was called, but the spacey realm that we were in. Yes. So maybe it could put me in a similar trance that, rewound what happened there or something.
Interesting. Asta, what do you think about for you?
I think other than maybe finding a way back to his natural age, maybe because it's a village of outsiders, and in Trophy World society that's beast bitten, he'll find out more about his condition and what it will mean in the long term and what he can do with it.
Awesome, thanks.
Or if he can truly be cured.
No, that's good. Cork, any thoughts?
You mortal humans so obsessed with age, up this, down that, my goodness. I feel like there are rumors that while this is supposedly the skeleton of a Leviathan, that within there is a ceramic sculpture of the Leviathan, and rumors that this was crafted by Mashiko's daughter. Not Mashiko herself, but one of her children.
Oh, good. Okay, good. Fabulous. So, the incursion begins in the Marsh Cradle. And the set goal for the Marsh Cradle is locate the drifting mangrove city of Seeker's Rest. I'll put that in chat for you. Now, the Marsh Cradle is a weaving series of interconnected streams bordered by dense jungle and abandoned settlements. There are marsh goats and sort of great massive fish that crawl about in the mud, and other scavengers sort of lurking among these ruins. You will have to navigate through the maze of mangrove roots and sunken dwellings in order to find the open lagoon where the floating city of Seeker's Rest is supposed to be located. And so at the outset, you have all set out, you're here via canoe. And so the four of you are, no, two canoes. Two to a canoe, maneuvering your boats between these dense roots and branches. And this is a muggy, hot, unpleasant journey so far. And I think I'd like to go around the table and let's just paint the scene a little bit. Well, before we do that, let me just keep fleshing out the scene on my end. You've been at this for the better part of a couple days. At a certain point, a heavy, warm mist was sort of obscuring the way. And as you sort of entered this mist, it just has this like terrible sulfurous stench. And so now it's for a time, it was not just hot and uncomfortable, it was also smelly and you can't see. So it's just like not great. But you got through all that. There were also sites that were like, I don't know if wondrous is the right way to put it, but certainly say something poignant about nature, we'll say. For example, at one point you saw the bleached bones of a great elephant sort of caught in the roots and sort of overgrown with vines. And of course, there is all sorts of small scavenger animals and non-scavenger animals too. Processions of fiddler crabs carrying away pieces of rotting meat. You see a pale blue heron sort of carefully studying the water at one point, and its beak strikes down really fast to impale a soft young turtle. This place is both teeming with life, but also teeming with signs of rot and death. It's this interplay, right? I do now want to go around the table, and I would like to know how your character is coping with the rather uncomfortable physical circumstances of this place. Think about it, and then whenever you know, let me know.
Ethelinda has decided to dress for the occasion, like instead of her sort of, I wouldn't say pompous outfits that she's been wearing before, but like she's definitely dressed for like an expedition and more like more expensive, I guess, clothing, where it'd be dressed for comfort rather than style. She's settling into her age, even as she doesn't want to stay that age.
Yeah, fair enough. Gwyneth?
I wear a lot of kind of scarves and loose fitting clothing anyway. And I imagine that I have taken ties and started like hiking up my pants and tying them off like waders, so that as we start to, like, the canoe gets stuck and we have to shove off into the water again, I'm the one that's up to my thighs trying to get everything going. I do not like the hot at all. So it's like tying up everything I can in scarves, trying to stay cool.
I love it. Asta?
Since it's been a couple weeks, maybe he's around 14 now, not 12, or is he aging at a normal speed?
You keep wishing that, Asta.
Okay. In which case, I think he probably borrowed or just took some clothes from the orphanage's lost and found, and he's wearing like younger people's clothes. He's got a tank top type thing that he's wearing, and some short pants rolled up at the knee, and he's really not having a good time in the heat and humidity, but he's doing his best.
Cork, it probably doesn't bother you at all, right?
Right. The mosquitoes are pouncing on the fleshy people around me, and I'm feeling kind of good. The humidity is helping loosen up some of the vines and fibers in that are kind of my connective tissue, and I'm feeling supple and great. But then I realize, like, there's a frog peeking out of my rib cage and like climbing all over me, and then there's a snake in there that I thought was just ropey muscle, and it's just an actual snake, and I got to pull it out. Then some dang bird lands on my shoulder and rips a couple of twigs right out of my porcelain face from them to make it my beard, and flies off with those to make a nest. And so I'm starting to find the vermin a little bit frustrating, even though the rest of the experience is kind of okay.
Thank you. I want to play with this idea of life and death, or fecundity and decay, right? Pick one, life or death, and describe something that your character sees during this 2-day journey through the Marsh Cradle, that sort of stands out to you as a good example of that thing. Either like excessive life or excessive decay and death.
I like the idea of a flower that rapidly blooms and then dies quite quickly, like maybe within an hour or two or something like that. It like comes to fruition right quickly, and then it, is overgrown with like pus and stuff like that after an hour or two.
Huh. Go ahead.
I too was thinking of life, and in this boggy, sort of marshy place, all of the mushrooms and orchids and all of the life that seems to spring immediately from the decay. Imagine there's a lot of pollen too.
Yes. Yeah. Austin?
Everywhere that they look, like there is obviously life, but it's coming at the expense of something else's. And so every time they see a frog, it jumps into water, and you just see a fish mouth come up and close over it, or a dead rotting thing covered in mushrooms. And so that's
Awesome.
where his mind is.
Yeah, that's good. Corbook?
I have this heartwarming moment where I see an alligator with some smaller alligators that I presume are her babies, and she just eats one, just thump. And that idea of an adult gator just turning and devouring a young one heartlessly is kind of I don't know, puts me back a pace.
Fabulous. And so you've been at this for a couple days, and you have sort of reached you're at a bit of an impasse. You have not found Seeker's Rest yet. It's maybe not the easiest terrain to navigate anyway, and you're going off of some just kind of slightly sketchy descriptions of like go here or go there. And at a certain point, you realize that the canoes are not the best construction, and so they are taking on just a little bit of water. You're kind of running out of time. You can't really you're just sort of like you're kind of stuck a little bit. And so I think you all pull the canoes up onto an embankment, get out, and just try to assess the situation. And what you kind of see around you, there is nearby the wreckage of a small barge. Who knows how long it's been there, but you do see the wreckage of a small barge. There is a floating mangrove tree with a small golden monkey sitting still in its upper branches. This is maybe a sign of something because it's floating and you're looking for a whole city made of floating mangrove trees. And then nearby as well, there is a ruined hut on a drier patch. Its crumbling thatched roof appears to be the home of some sort of small nesting creatures based off the activity that you see. And so with no real idea where to go, might as well start here and see if, maybe you can find something of value in the barge or in the hut. Maybe this was just a wash and you go back to Umbaret, who knows? But in any case, I'm going to go around the table and I want to ask, I will start with, let's start with our new character, Gleneth. What do you do?
I look up to the golden monkey and say, hello, how are you today?
Do you anticipate that the monkey will be able to respond back?
I do not, but I am hoping that that monkey is familiar enough with somewhat humanoid creatures to expect, like a chipmunk in the park. It might expect food or, have some sort of familiarity.
I like that. And is it because you hope that maybe if the monkey's familiar with humanoids, then maybe it might know where more of them are? Is that the idea? Okay, good. Let's do a hunt roll. So if you take a look at the dice roller in Discord, if you go to the Discord, there's a little channel called Dice. Go to that channel, and the way the hunt roll works is you get one light die just for doing it, and you get a second light die if you have a piece of equipment or a skill that is relevant to the situation. And so take a look at your skills and your equipment and see if you have something that makes sense in this context. If not, it could just be a one die roll, just saying hello to the monkey. That's fine as well. What do you think?
Yeah, I think this is a one die roll because I don't want to use traps or anything like that. I'm trying to be benevolent.
Absolutely.
Give the monkey a marble.
Just start throwing
marbles at the monkey. Okay, so let's say it's a one die roll. Do /hunt /1 on the die roll. Okay, you got a 5. So you get a hunt roll token. You can just note that on your character sheet. There's a section for hunt roll tokens. But you also encounter something terrible. And so
more monkeys.
the monkey is actually responsive. And I don't think it's willing to jump down and go where you are necessarily, because it would have to swim through a little bit of the water for one thing. But you can tell that the monkey is making like a connection between you and that ruined hut. And I'm just going to say that maybe this is a sign that the monkey is accustomed to talking to someone in the ruined hut, but maybe that person hasn't been there for a while, or maybe it's confused and is not sure if you belong to the ruined hut. But in any case, I don't know how much actionable information you're getting from the monkey. You're supposed to encounter something terrible, though. And the terrible thing is this. The monkey is distracted somewhat by you. It's gone down to lower branches to sort of interact with you. And we've already described how there are crocodiles in the water, or Brian did. And there is definitely a crocodile lurking.
Surfacing.
Yes. I don't think you notice it, though, Gleneth. I think you notice it, Corkuluk. What do you do?
This crocodile seems to have designs on the monkey or on...
yes, because
Gleneth.
the monkey has gone down to a lower branch. Yeah. To a lower part of the mangrove.
Have I heard enough monkey cries to put my mimicry skill to use and try and make a monkey alarm sound?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I like that a lot. I don't want to risk roll here. I like it in the fiction because you're using your skill. So is that what you do? You just like make an alarm cry?
Yeah, yeah. Monkey speak for, beware a crocodile below you.
Very good. I think that's enough to alert the monkey, and it like quickly scrambles back up higher into the mangrove. I do want to go around to Ethelinda. What are you doing right now?
Is it a starry? Is it evening or daylight?
It is probably like dusk. It's going to be starry soon. There's probably starting to be stars in the sky, but like just a few because it's dusk.
I haven't used my prophecy skill, so maybe since we're finally out in the open, I can try to interpret the stars to see if there's a way in which we can go.
Yeah, I like that. Make a 2-die hunt roll. Okay, so looks like you got a 5, which is a token. Take your token, and you encounter something terrible. Now, I think you probably started to intuit this already. Maybe this is even why you all stopped here. I don't know. But the stars that are currently visible, because it's not a full night sky yet, the stars that are currently visible indicate that the answer to finding Seeker's Rest will be found here in this little patch of Marsh Cradle, right? Maybe even the fact that one of the canoes sort of ran aground a little bit, in this area. Maybe that's another further sign of this, right? I'm curious though, tell me about what is the constellation that is visible that like makes you think that this is the one, this is the place where we'll find the answer?
Maybe there's like a convergence of 3 different stars, and it's like hard to make out the full constellation, but there's a convergence here that would be like fortune, danger, and wreckage or something like that. I can't completely make it out, but just the fact that there's a formation is enough to lead me here.
Yeah, it's good. Asta, what are you up to?
To kind of distract himself on the journey, he's been trying to match everything that he sees to anything that might be in the Marquess's book. See if there's anything noteworthy or even just slightly interesting.
So you have this book called Neral's Bestiary, which has been very helpful throughout the campaign, like learning about sometimes even just small things about various creatures of the world, right? So do you have a goal here that you're trying to accomplish, or is this just sort of casual perusing?
See if maybe there's been anything in the book or in the wildlife that really indicates like, yes, you're in the right spot. Neral wrote about it here.
Yeah, just anything about Seeker's Rest, I guess, would probably be. Take a 2-die hunt roll since you're using the bestiary.
5.
Okay, 5's a popular number today. Take your token, and no, there's nothing. And the reason why is because Seeker's Rest is intentionally not well known in the world. The Goblin Seers and Lore Masters have gone out of their way to keep Seeker's Rest like out of consciousness of the general population, and particularly of human populations, right? And so, no, the Marquess never learned of Seeker's Rest or anything about it. However, there is a note that the Marquess did spend some time in marshy lands, even in this region, say, in the Marsh Cradle, and he describes a great, terrible mud-dwelling fish that is very fond of heaving its bulk onto canoes and sinking them in order to get at the food inside. Maybe something to be mindful of as you continue your journey. And so with that, we shall take a quick break. We'll come back in 5 minutes, and I'd like to have a scene with everybody there just at the little embankment. Now that you've all kind of like, stretched your legs a little. All right, come back in 5. So I'd like to just have that scene with everybody there, kind of, you've pulled the canoes up, you've started to, we did the little things we described, right? Osto flipping through the book, and Gleneth trying to get the monkey's attention, and Corkuluk saving the monkey just barely, and Ethelinda muttering about the stars. Let's just have that scene. Role play.
I think whatever's going to happen is going to happen right here. Also, watch out for that crocodile.
Well, it's kind of hard to see through all these mangroves. Are you sure you're even reading these stars right? Like, there's a lot of leaves in the way. I don't know.
Do you have a better way of navigating?
This monkey seems to think that I came from the hut. What's in there?
I look up at the stars and I say, it could be a ruin.
Well, you've said that for the last 3 weeks. So yes, I suppose it could be.
Something to keep in mind.
Also, big fish, keep that in mind. Big fish.
What big fish?
And he'll kind of hold the book out and open it up and tap at a little drawing of this giant bud-dwelling fish.
Neural calls it the mud devil.
Does it have buck teeth?
It does have a quite large, huge teeth, big teeth.
Is there a way to spot this mud devil? Because we are standing on mud, I assume.
It doesn't say, but we're not in the canoe, so that's probably helpful.
We've seen fish that would walk ostensibly on land, like mud crawlers and things like that, of a giant size, as we've traversed this.
You have, yeah,
okay.
yeah. This could very well be what Neural was talking about, for sure. Yeah, I think maybe Neural had a bad experience and decided to document it. So.
Are we ashore right now, or are we just drifting in these 2 canoes?
No, you're ashore. No,
we are ashore.
The canoes have been pulled up to an embankment, and I think the ruins of the hut are kind of like on the far side of that shore, and you see the tree very, very slowly floating by, and then what else did I describe? There's something else. Oh, the barge. There's the wreckage of a small barge across the way. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Would my skill in traps allow me to spot as well as construct? Could I take
Absolutely.
a look and see what's around the hut?
Yeah, go for it. Take a hunt roll with 2 dice.
Sorry, new dice. Who dis? Double 4s.
So the 4, we're just looking for the high, which is a 4, and so you get a token, but you encounter something terrible. Go ahead and note your token. You are. How are you checking the hut? What does this look like?
I would be probably looking at the distance between me and the hut, and then kind of in a 4 to 6 foot kind of circle around it, slowly kind of making my way between the mushy and squishy spots, just doing a visual circumference, seeing if anybody had laid out wires or trips, or that branch is about to fall out of that tree any moment.
I love that. There's a You're doing that. You're not noticing anything particularly trap-like. But you do hear, at one point on the other side of the hut, you hear a sort of bleating call. I'm drowning. Help. I'm drowning. What do you do?
I think it's a marsh goat and turn back to my party and say, I think that there is a helpless goat or a potential trap of a helpless goat behind this hut.
You all can hear it. Help. Help. Asta, what do you do? Actually, no, Corklick, you're into animal noises and mimicry. What do you do?
I don't want to be obnoxious, but a part of me is tempted to just start imitating all the sounds I hear for the rest of this. Oh, I don't know. It seems urgent. I feel like press forward and try and. I'm assuming that it's not going to be a marsh goat trap. Press forward kind of earnestly and see who needs help.
Yeah. If you go look, you will see it is a shaggy mud-caked goat with sort of dark gray fur, just caked with mud and leaves. The horns look salt encrusted. The sort of unnerving thing are the eyes, which are remarkably human. And the goat is not drowning, it's standing on land, and it's just staring at you, totally unblinking. Help! I'm drowning! Help! What do you do?
All right. I have not had a good reason to use my monstrous wooden mask, but this seems worthwhile. I shall pull up my monstrous wooden mask and try and imitate its voice as well as I can right back to it and say, "You're a filthy liar. You're not drowning at all, you land-loving goat."
It makes no response. It just continues to stare, an unblinking stare, a dead-eyed stare, and repeating over and over again, "Help, I'm drowning." And yeah, it's almost like it doesn't even, maybe it doesn't see you. I don't know. But
All right.
what do you do
You
then?
know how parrots sometimes learn from their, the people that are around them. I'm wondering if this goat witnessed a drowning. So I want to go try and poke and prod in the. You said it was kind of near the shore, or no? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, everything's kind of near the shore though at this point, so
Right.
it's kind of.
I just want to poke and prod and see if, I don't know, there's somebody's arm sticking out of the water nearby or something like that.
That's a good idea. We'll come back to that. Asta, what are you doing?
Could I, with my skill in beasts, am I clear that it is in fact just a goat, or could it be a beast bitten or a automaton thing?
Neurals will have an entry on this. Yeah, this is just a marsh goat.
Using my rope, could I make a lasso and try and get it around the thing's neck?
Yeah, I think that's a possibility. We'll come back to that. Ethelinda, and also Gleneth, I'll just say Gleneth, you get the all clear. There are no traps around the hut, so no worries there. But Ethelinda, what do you do?
My first thought was to take an iron spike and sort of strike it to make like a loud sound to sort of like snap it out of its reverie, possibly.
Oh, for the goat, yeah. You could do something non-goat related too if you want.
Well, maybe I'll go with Gleneth to investigate then.
The hut is like I said, has a crumbling thatched roof. There's some birds and stuff up above. Gleneth has sorted it out. There's no traps or anything. It doesn't seem like anybody's even lived there for a while. Do you just go inside the hut or what?
I think so.
Inside, it is mostly, it seems maybe abandoned. There's just like 2 rooms, a sleeping room and like a central room. The central room has a sort of like a table and like a small cooking hearth and a couple of chairs. The other room has a bed, but with no mattress, just the frame, and like a cupboard, a standing tall cupboard. What do you do?
Look in the cupboard.
Do a hunt roll.
I don't think I'd have anything that helps me with this. A 1.
You will be encountering something terrible. We shall come back to that.
Did I lose my tokens?
You do as well. Yeah, you lose all your tokens also. Gleneth, what will you be doing in the meantime?
I would have followed Ethelinda into the hut as well. Just again, being very cautious, kind of following up behind her and seeing the room. Does it look like, is there a layer of, when the seasons change and you have all of the cobwebs and dead bugs and everything, is there a layer of just surface grime that would indicate that this has been unoccupied for months, years, like any of that?
Yeah, great question. Make a hunt roll.
All right, just 1.
Unless you have some sort of like homes or some kind of relevant skill, something like that.
5 again.
Better than a 1. Take your token. I think the terrible thing you encounter, I'm just going to have you both encountering the thing from Ethelinda's roll, so we'll come back to that. But I will tell you your answer. Yes, no one's been here for a while. You will notice signs of that, like sort of like vermin having moved in, right? Definitely. This hut hasn't been occupied for at least months, probably longer.
My follow-up question is there any other disturbance other than our footprints in the hut? Is there like a clear path leading to, one would imagine, a trapdoor under the bed or that sort of thing?
Great question. And that answer is coming directly. Hold that. That's a great question. Let's go to Corkalook. So Corkalook, you're thinking that maybe the goat is imitating somebody who drowned and you want to see if that person is nearby.
Yeah, that was
good. I like that. Take a hunt roll.
Okay. Does prodding in the water with an axe help, or?
Sure.
All right. Six.
Nice. Take your token. You do find you prod around, and whoever it is has been dead for a while. When you pull it up, it's just you lift up a sort of a skeletal hand or an arm covered in swamp muck. Yeah, you find it. What do you do?
Were they once human? Can I tell anything about their nature?
It's 5 fingers on the hand, so
fingers. All right. Let's try and dig deeper. See if we can pull up whatever jewelry, house keys, a map to the mangrove city of Seeker's Rest.
Yeah, you can definitely be doing that. We'll come back to that. And also, you said you were going to try to just like loop a rope around the marsh goat's neck, right?
Yeah, taking the goat.
I love it. That's a great. I don't know if it's a great idea, but it's fun to see. So let's talk about. I I think it's a risk roll. I think it's a risk roll. So everybody gets a chance to speak here and say, if Osto fails, if the die roll goes poorly for Osto, what is the worst thing that could happen? What's the terrible thing that could happen here right now? I'm gonna keep it simple and say that the goat gets angry and attacks you, right? But if anybody else has any better ideas, and we don't settle on anything, everyone's just sort of ideas, and then we kind of move on to the next thing. It's up to me ultimately to decide what happens. But
Perhaps in the struggle of wrangling said stubborn goat, what you end up doing instead is like quicksand sinking 2 or 3 feet deeper into the mud in your own like wrangling.
I love it. Stuck in the mud. Brian or Fraser, any thoughts?
I was thinking just it becomes somehow more monstrous in nature.
I like that.
Yeah, my idea may be more of a devil's bargain, because I'm wondering, since it has human eyes, if essentially somebody's spirit or essence has moved itself into this goat, and they're gonna know more and act on that.
I love it. Okay, so let's take a look at your dice, Osto. You get 1 light die if you're using either a skill, a piece of equipment, or the environment.
Oh, I got that rope.
Sounds good. And second light die for devil's bargains. A reminder, devil's bargains are things you make an offer and Drew can choose to take it or not, but he can only accept 1 offer. And if he does so, he gets a light die to add to his die pool. The devil's bargain has to be something that can happen no matter what, whether the goat wrangling succeeds or fails, the devil's bargain happens. So, and it doesn't even have to be super connected to what's going on. It could be something totally outside of the scene even.
It was fairly windy in my yard recently, and we have quite a bit of trees. And there was this prophetic moment where instead of sitting outside, I said, no, I think a tree branch might fall. And about 20 minutes later, a big tree branch did actually fall, whether that's like onto the rope or onto you or onto the goat. Targets are abound, but I think that might be fun.
No matter what, a big tree branch falls.
No matter what, the tide comes in, so it sort of is prophesizing what is going to happen.
I get a vague idea of the goat bites you, and as you're sort of regrowing back to adult size, you might be sort of a part goat, part bear.
I like all 3 of those. I don't have an offer. Yeah, so those are your offers, Drew.
I think that last one there would depend on what that would mean. Would I get the hooves or the horns? Because
or just a little beard.
Or just
the udders.
The 12-year-old with a beard. Okay, good. So you got.
I think I'll take the rising tide.
Sorry, you're taking the rising tide.
Yes.
Remind me what that was. That was Ethelinda's or Fraser's offer, right? Which is that the tide just comes in, right? Is that the idea? Okay.
Yeah, like what it was saying is true. That we're going to start drowning too, probably along with it or something. But with the tide coming in.
Oh, the goat's like a prophecy. Oh, I like that. That's pretty good. Okay. No, you got 2 light dice. I don't think you're quite at dark die level yet. The goat doesn't even seem aware of you, to be honest. Seems very like almost catatonic or something.
5.
The complication is going to be that the goat does bite back. I don't know if it can't be ruined because there's no dark die, but I will say that you're going to get like a swamp rot condition from its troubled mouth.
If only I were 11. Okay, yeah, I'll take that.
Fabulous. So We'll come back for the scene in a moment. I want to cut away for right now. Okay, so back in the hut. It was a good idea, Gwyneth, to like see where somebody might have gone, right? And I don't know if you don't see any footprints or anything like that, but the way you've described it, you might be looking for trapdoors or that kind of thing. Terrific thing to do. Very, very like, I can tell you're an experienced dungeoneer. Always check for trapdoors under rugs. Always knock at the base of statues, right?
Traps and trapdoors. It's
Yeah, exactly. I love it. So, indeed, there is a sort of moldering rug in the bedroom. And so Ethelinda's in there, you're in there. I think you flip open the rug and there is in fact a trapdoor down there. Now this can't possibly lead to any kind of like basement or anything because it's just on a little muddy embankment, but you know, it's got to lead to something. So what do you do?
despite all good reason, I open it
And
to see what swamp lies beneath, presumably.
before you can even like get it open, it bursts open and knocks you back because it just leads to like the water below. And maybe the former owner kept like fish baskets or something down there, who knows? But one of this huge mud slick fish with massive teeth has propelled itself with its big flipper-like fins out of the water and it's just slammed into the middle of the room and it's just wildly like thrashing with its teeth at both of you. This is a combat, you cannot avoid it. And let's have a combat. So each of you has to tell me how you are vulnerable right now. And then after you say how you're vulnerable, you're going to roll a weak die, a roll /weak on the die roller.
I am knocked onto my back, and I imagine being in the position of a canoe that I am probably looking very familiar of floppable, I guess, is my weakness.
Yeah. Roll weak, /weak.
I think I'm surprised and sort of floundering for my feet. If it's flopping around and debasing it.
Okay, so Gleneth's weak point is 1. It's actually a really good weak point. And Ethelinda's is 5. That's a bad weak point because higher is bad. It's pretty marginal, but generally speaking, higher is worse. And so 1 and 5, we're gonna do a combat. So basically, it's 1 dark die per character in the first round. And so that's 2 dark dice. And so Ethelinda, do us the honors, roll combat 2.
Okay. Combat.
You're looking for...
Of course I got hit.
You're looking for 8 though, so you killed it. So that's good because you got 9 because we look at the 2 highest dice. And so you are going to defeat the mudcrawler. You will slay it, but Ethelinda takes a hit. So first round of combat. Ethelinda, describe it. What does it look like?
I think when it leaps, I come at it. I guess we already established that it jumped onto the
it's just in the
Gleneth.
room. Yeah, it's in the room. Well, it just kind of knocked Gleneth back. But.
Okay. I just I jump on it and beat it with my staff.
Gleneth, finish the monster off.
I would take a series of like a bit of strong silk that I have and just try and get it in its open maw to like hoist it back so it's getting beat in the snoot with her staff, trying to get it into the mouth or choke and hold it still for the rest of the beating.
Nice, I like it. Ethelinda, how do you get hit? What happens to you? Does it like buck you off or something? Because it's like the size of like a walrus.
Maybe it turns and I get a little cut from its a tooth or something like that.
Okay, so
in its death throes.
your arm just gets kind of caught in the teeth. Well, so finish it off, Ethelinda. I mean, Gleneth's got it at bay, with the silk, and you're like beating it. Like, what's the killing blow look like?
I think I got I got cut because I put my bow staff directly in its mouth all the way back and just like brain it from the inside.
Nice, and it eventually stops, and just with a couple of quick thrashes, and then it's calm.
I'm gonna call out a little too late. I have a fishing net.
Indeed. Let's Gleneth roll 8 gold, or gold 8.
I think I misheard. Gold or goal?
Gold.
Mhm.
Nice. You get 2 gold. So you each will get a gold off of this creature in body parts. Take a moment to think about what you want to harvest from this beast, and we'll come back to you on that. Okay, so Korkuluk, you are getting closer to pulling up this skeleton. It's not too much trouble. You have to kind of dig up the silt a little bit, but you get it. So then what? And indeed, you pull it out, and it's a skeleton of a humanoid creature about human size. What then?
Any clothing, jewelry, marks upon it?
Yeah, you will find. Yeah, around its neck, tangled up in its sternum or rib cage, is a necklace, and the necklace is actually a small feline skull mineralized with precious crystals. You can take that.
Alrighty. And I'm curious, presumably this being drowned and the goat was nearby, but can I tell what made it drown? Like did something pull it under? Did it, I don't know, slip off of a pier and
Do a hunt roll. We'll see. Do a hunt roll.
see if I have any special tools or skills. I don't know. Just poking with the axe, still useful or not? Or obfuscation, perhaps. What do you think?
Oh yeah, maybe. Yeah, I'll take that.
Right. 4.
Take your token. I don't think you're able to learn anything about how this person drowned. There's no telling how long ago it was, and there's just not a lot of forensic evidence here. I think the encounter something terrible is maybe. I think it's the following. You are. Let me come back to it. I want to hold it for just a moment. Let me go back to Osto. Osto, you had described, or what'd you roll? What was your die result?
5.
And I told you that the complication was.
I'm going to get bit in a swamp rot infection.
Indeed. Okay, so just give us the scene. You managed to loop the rope around the goat's neck.
And try and, as gently as possible, start drawing it towards me, get it out of the muck and onto slightly safer ground. And despite its previous near catatonic state, it just whips its head around and clamps down on my closest arm. And Osto just like gives a shout, pulls his arm back and goes, "Why are they always biting me?"
The goat eventually yields and will follow you. And every now and then, it regurgitates half-digested remains of things onto the ground. Little fish, birds, bits of like metal and rock. It seems to just eat whatever it gets its mind up to eat. And in between these occasional retches, it says, I'm drowning, I'm drowning. It's not the most pleasant creature, if I'm being perfectly honest. What do you hope to do with the goat, apart from dragging it closer inland?
My plan really only went so far as saving it from whatever predicament it thought it was in.
Yeah, no, this should
yeah.
confirm that it's not, it has no, it's just, I don't even think it knows the words it's saying, right? It's just repeating
Right.
things.
Maybe it'll come in handy.
It's one of those things where you gotta kiss it and it turns into a prince or something.
I hope not. Did you keep the mineralized skull?
Oh yeah, it seems worth keeping unless I'm grabbing
It's
a
worth
cursed
1
item.
gold.
But
Yeah,
what
it's
the
worth
heck?
1 gold. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
It's worth 1 gold. Just a note there.
Okay.
Okay. So the fish, Ethelinda, what did you take from the fish?
The tooth that cracked off when it bit me.
Okay. And so it's worth 1 gold to the right buyer, apparently. And what did you take, Gleneth, if anything?
I was hoping to harvest some sort of blubber from it, thinking I could find some use for the fat, if there is fat on the creature to harvest.
Yeah, I think well, there is now. So yeah, you can take the blubber. You also get the distinction of naming this creature. Now, Naral has a name for them, but you know, Naral it's not the be all end all of zoological categorization in this world. What would you name this thing? You can think about it for a little bit, but if you have an idea for a name, by all means.
No, currently in my notes, it's listed as a mudfish / walrus blubber. So I'm going to have to come up with a better name.
Well, think on it, and we'll add it to the bestiary, to your own bestiary, which will someday rival Neral's, I'm sure. Okay, so let me wrap up with Korkuluk, and then we'll call it. So Korkuluk, the terrible thing you encounter is, I'm going to keep it pretty low stakes. Basically, you all have been kind of like putzing around here for a bit, and I think it's just getting dark, and going back out into the water is probably not in the cards for you tonight. This place is probably much more dangerous at nighttime. So,
well, time to make camp.
The question is in or out of the hut?
And do we want to try and push to this barge or floating mangrove before they drift away? Will they drift away? I'm sorry, the wrecked barge may not be drifting, but the floating mangrove might drift away, right?
Yeah, the floating mangrove, I mean, it'll definitely be, certainly by the time you wake up in the morning, it'll no longer be in sight. So,
what are your thoughts, folks?
Better investigate. We already found the ruin. Should be okay.
See what we can see of the wreck. Get a little closer.
Yeah, how far off is the barge from here?
You'll have to get in the canoe, but it's probably like, that's not too far, like a couple 100 yards, maybe.
Well, split the party, or shall we all go to the barge?
I like to watch.
I see.
I feel like the barge will be there in the morning. I was more concerned about mangrove drifting completely out of sight with whether the golden monkey is anybody we need or he was just there to set up a relationship with the deceased landlord of the hut. I don't know.
A golden herring.
Yeah, well, it sent us to get almost eaten by its flounder, so maybe it's a benevolent monkey.
Or malevolent. right? Okay, well, so what are we all doing? Hosto, what are you gonna do? You have this. What are you gonna do with the goat, by the way? Are you just gonna tie it up or what?
Yeah, for now I'll tie it to the tree supporting the house.
Mercifully, it goes to sleep and will stop bleeding. What do you do then?
Who wants to check out the barge? And he'll start readying the canoe.
Corklick, you were most interested in the tree, yes?
Um,
You have 2 canoes, so
sure, we can divide up. I can go check out the floating mangrove tree and see if there's something useful there.
Ethelinda, what will you be doing? Making camp?
Yeah, I'll nurse my wounds and set up a little station for us. Maybe, well, I guess I don't need to cook sushi, but if it's edible, maybe we'll eat some fish.
I I wouldn't eat such a fish, but maybe not.
Maybe
By all
not. Then.
means.
If it looks nasty, then I don't want it.
Are you to answer Glenn's question? Are you going to set up camp inside the hut or outside of it?
Probably inside now, I guess.
Okay.
I'll definitely close that trap door though.
Yeah, absolutely. And then Gleneth, what will you be doing?
Well, I was also curious about the tree. I mean, if it was such a thing where we would fear it floating away in the night, couldn't we quite possibly camp in the tree? Like if we did hammocks and everything else, if we didn't build a fire, like maybe we would it would travel time, like falling asleep on an airplane.
I guess the only downside of that is you don't know where it's going to take you, right? Which could be
very fair.
Yeah.
Another whole problem. Practicality. I'll get into the canoe with Osto to investigate the barge off ahead.
So you all have just a little bit of dusk light left. I'm going to start with the barge. So you paddle out to the barge. You'll notice it's it's not in great shape. It's almost entirely sunk. You will see just a little bit like kind of like below the surface of the water what appears to be some like broken pots and things like that. But also a little further down, kind of stuck in the mud beneath the water, you can kind of make out what appears to be a handle, like a small handle of something buried in the mud. You probably have to go down there to get a better look or to pull the handle or whatever it is, but that's what you see just at a kind of after a cursory glance. Asta, what do you do then?
He'll do the bad idea, but funny to see. He'll reach for the handle.
I think you'll have to go in the water a little bit.
Oh, like right out of the boat. Okay.
Yeah. It's pretty muddy or pretty murky water, so all you can see is the handle. You just can't really make out what it is or what's down there.
Yeah, he'll have lit a torch that he'll hand off to Glenneth and say, "This is probably a bad idea, but
will be fun to see." So
slide over the edge and, while holding one hand on the canoe, try and reach down and get the handle.
I will have one hand on his hand on the edge of that canoe.
Nice. This definitely feels like a risk roll, right? Sounds like what you're trying to accomplish is to retrieve whatever's down there, right? And that's reasonable. I think if you want to take a help roll from Glenneth, if you need it, you can do that as well, Austin. Let's talk about dice, or let's talk about failure first. Everybody but Drew. What could happen if this goes wrong? What could be lurking in the water, say?
Well, that croc that got thwarted has a grudge.
And is still hungry, right?
Do any of you know what noodling is in reference to Cat pulling up catfish without
I
bait?
do, and it's horrifying. I can't imagine why anybody would do that as a hobby.
Right, it is horrifying. They, you basically are ducking your head underwater into water so murky you can't see what you're doing often, and so the chance of you getting kind of mired underwater, unable to breathe, is certainly there.
I say if it goes poorly, you put your head right inside a tangle of marsh vipers, just a big ball of marsh vipers.
Great.
Sarah, any thoughts?
I'm genuinely trying to help, man. So we're good. I think that I think that this swampy area, that once you go under and you hit the ground where you think the bottom of the water is, it isn't. It's a heck of a lot deeper than you believe it to be, and you get stuck.
All right. So what about your first die here, Osto? The torch, I think I'll kind of take the torch since you handed the torch off to Gleneth, if you want to take the light die for that. And you also have strength, which I think is also probably, well, when you were bigger, it was more salient, but you have you're probably a stout 12-year-old, right? Devil's bargains. This is the interesting part, right? I'm going to say no matter what, you put your head into a ball of a tangle of marsh vipers. Hopefully your fellow players will come up with something better than that.
So this is a metal handle underwater, right?
It can be, yeah. I hadn't really given any, it's not really defined, but.
The barge begins to sink, or becomes more dilapidated than it already is, or something, like some sort of time limit is introduced into the barge.
Oh, so you can't search the
Or
barge
perhaps,
anymore. Yeah.
or perhaps is unstuck and starts to move, pulling you and or anybody else in a canoe along with it.
I want to go with, by your different angle or whatever, when you surface, you can see evidence on the barge that this barge once transported orphans from your childhood orphanage.
Oh, that's intriguing. Get a nice little fictional backstory option. What do you think, Drew?
I'll take that one, the orphanage.
Yeah, it's good. And you've got 2 light dice. Take a dark die as well. I think you're risking your body here.
Oof.
Woof, 2 light. So here's where the help roll might come in. So we already know that Gleneth is helping you with the torch. So Gleneth, for the die roller purposes, just roll /weak. And if, no, you don't have to do this, Gleneth, but if you want to help, you're going to roll a light die basically. And if that light die matches the dark die, which means if it's a 1, your ruin goes up. Okay. But otherwise the die gets included with the result. So
I got a question about that though.
Yeah.
Drew is only at a 1 dark, so he can still re-roll and add another dark die.
Absolutely. He can definitely do that. The re-rolled dark die doesn't matter. If the help die ever matched a dark die, the ruin goes up. So
right, but if you that's kind of my question, I guess, is so there's a current 1 dark on the table.
Mm-hmm.
If Drew re-rolls now with 2 dark dice, and then Sarah rolls to help, are we ignoring that 1 dark die because it was in the past?
Whatever the dark dice are when Sarah rolls is what, and so it's more dangerous then because there's 2 dark dice, right? So 2 opportunities to match it.
Right, but she also knows what they are ahead of time. This is me just sort of also like analyzing the math of what a help roll is, because I was in a discussion with some people on the Discord about it, and my own rationale was if you have not yet, as the acting player, have not yet taken ruin, and you can roll more dark dice, you should, and the help player should come in as late as possible, like when they're required for success. There's less risk to the helper.
It's up to Drew and Sarah. So
Sure, yeah.
I think the problem is if Drew does end up needing the help in a future round, Sarah has many more chances or more chances to get ruined herself, right? So that's the thing there.
If I was helping, I'd help right away.
Right, yeah, like minimize the opportunity to get ruined. Yeah, I think I would too. So Glennis, do you want to help?
Well, to that point, the help is coming from the torch he handed me, just so he can see a little bit better.
Well, and just you generally kind of just helping, right?
Helping.
Like, yeah,
okay,
yeah,
quote unquote.
yeah.
Yes, I would like to help.
Okay.
And I will help now as opposed to later because of math percentages.
Do a for the die roller, just do a /weak to get a single light die. Okay, 2. So it was not helpful, but you didn't take any ruin. Now, you get the option at this point, Osto, if you would like to add a dark die, by all means.
I will do that. A 5.
Okay, so 5, that's better. You succeed. And I'm trying to remember, I don't think these dark dice apply to the help die. I need to just look this up. I'm going to say for now, I'm just going to say Gleneth, you're in the clear, but you got a 5. And so that's a success with a complication. We'll come back to that. I'll tell you what the complication is, though. The complication is you go down there and you don't put your head in it, but there is a tangle of marsh vipers under the water.
No escaping marsh vipers.
Think about whether you want to add that to that or not. We'll come back. But meanwhile, Corkalook, you're paddling out to the tree, correct?
Yes, correct.
Yeah. Okay, so you get there. What do you
do? I'll make little cooing monkey noises to see if this monkey is still around.
Sure. It kind of like comes out of some, like coverage and sort of peeks out and looks at you.
All right. Do I have any monkey chow in my backpack? Let's see. I'm looking at crazy stuff I'm still carrying. I'm still toting around an iron spike that Ethelinda gave me in the temple. I'll kind of like offer up a little iron spike as a gift and see if the monkey accepts it.
Make a hunt roll. This is exploring the environment, I think, in a sort of way.
Is the spike worth a second dice or no?
Sure.
All right. Oh, 2 1s.
Woof. That is a bad result. You lose all your hunt roll tokens, and we'll come back to that. I think the crocodile, alligator, which one of those would be most appropriate? Is getting it has been biding its time. It has been biding its time. It is adequately foreshadowed. I want to check in with Ethelinda. Ethelinda, you've got camp, such as it is, pretty well going. What are you up to in there? What are you doing?
I think I'm more exploring the room, see if there's any crevices or furniture or other things that might be interesting.
Yeah, at a glance it's not much, but go ahead and do a hunt roll. Maybe you'll find something.
Sure. I do not have something that would help me, I think. No. 6.
Nice. Take your token. Yeah. This incursion has a fabulous treasure table with it. Gabriel Robinson wrote it. He's good at that kind of thing. You are looking around. Like I said, there's not too much to see. There's the cupboard. There, maybe you get a chance to kind of search that a little more carefully, and you find. You find a small lantern in the cupboard. It is made of azure fish skin and it's strung with prayer ribbons. And I don't think it has any like, it doesn't have any like intrinsic value in terms of like it's worth 1 gold or whatever, but it might have value to someone. This little like lantern, blue fish skin lantern with prayer ribbons dangling off of it might be useful in the future. So you can add that to your found equipment.
So when I light it, it's blue flame.
Well, it appears blue. The glow is blue. Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. All right. So before we go on break, Osto, you and Gleneth are trying to get this handle. You'll get the handle. You'll see it. There is going to be a ball of marsh vipers, unless you want to add a dark die to aim for a 6.
I don't think I should chance it.
So, you get your hand on the chest, right? Or the handle, and you give it a tug, and it is a chest. It comes out of the mud, and it's pretty small, like maybe bread box sized. And you're able to hoist it out, right? And when you hoist it out, you now see though that like sort of lifting out with it, surfacing in the water is just this bunch of vipers. And they kind of surface, and you see them there just kind of flopping around in the surface of the water. They can't get in the boat, but probably don't want to fall in for any reason. Let's just have that moment with you and Gleneth and this like muddy chest.
I imagine there's there's the anticipation as it starts to rise, and then that moment of what is that root, and then just a little bit of incoherent yelping as Osto tries to frantically get pulled back into the boat.
I've got
the
you
chest.
from behind the neck, like the shirt, and both hands trying to haul you face first into the canoe, which is actually probably making it more challenging to get the chest in.
The chest is oh, sorry, go ahead.
They just land all in a big clump.
Yeah.
I am now covered in mud.
The chest is remarkably well sealed. I think it even has like probably whoever made this journey was prepared for something like this, or prepared for just the wet environment, because the chest has like a wax seal all around it so that nothing can get inside. Do you want to crack the seal open and see what's inside?
It's going to be more vipers, isn't it?
I really don't think that it's going to be more vipers, but there's also not a reason to open it now. We could go back to camp. It is well sealed. It's not spoiling. Also, I check for traps.
I'll tell you, if you examining it while you go back to camp, you'll see that the chest is fine. There's no danger.
Delightful.
Yeah. And there's if there are vipers in it, they suffocated long ago. And I'm gonna just, before we go on break, Korkulek, you're there with the monkey. The monkey's into the spike. That's happening. It's sort of like quizzically, looking at it, and you too, very interested in you as a, because you are different from what he's accustomed to, right? And we just see sort of the camera pans down, and we just see this great big, like reptilian thing, kind of like slowly rising up, ready to make good on its earlier promise. And let's take 5 minutes and we'll come back and finish that up. We're back. Korkulek. The monkey starts going apeshit, and you see this large alligator, crocodile, or maybe some other kind of reptilian thing, but it's lurking in the water. You can see the scales even in the low dusk light, or the twilight now. What do you do?
Is it, what am I saying? Is it essentially behind me, pressing me towards the mangrove? Should I flee, or is it coming up between me and the mangrove?
Oh, good question. I think it's behind you. Yeah, behind you. But it's all, you can maneuver as you need to. I think that's not a concern.
All right. And size speaking, do I think I can take this in a fight solo, or am I going to become crocodile bait?
I mean, out of character, I'll tell you the endurance is 8, so you should be able to handle it.
So it's, well, I'll take a round or 3.
Yeah, it'll take a few rounds, but maybe like minimum 2, maybe 3.
Unless the monkey helps me.
I'm more inclined to make the monkey an extra weak point if you don't want the monkey to get eaten. So
that makes sense.
Yeah.
My thoughts to try and clamber up into the mangrove tree to seek shelter with the monkey if I can. Does that seem reasonable?
Sure. I think it's a risk roll rather than a combat if you want to do that.
Yeah, that's right.
Sarah, Drew, Fraser, what could go wrong here?
Well, in crawling up the tree, you might lose your footing and just slide clean into the marsh.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was going with it too. Like you just fall into the water and now you're totally vulnerable to the thing here.
I was thinking the monkey would attack with the iron spike you gave it.
Like attack the alligator?
Oh, the alligator, no. I mean like it would join in attacking you with the iron spike.
Just like, random outcome. Drew, what do you think?
I was also thinking the monkey might attack, but perhaps some part of Corcola gets stuck on the tree and you're pinned there, kind of.
Oh yeah, that's interesting. Okay, so let's talk about dice. Do you have a relevant skill or piece of equipment? Or, well, you're kind of using the environment. I'll give you the die for the environment because you're using the tree. So to get to safety. What about Devil's Bargains?
2, correct? Or
we'll go to Devil's Bargains. You're at risk 1 so far. You have 1 light die currently. Devil's Bargains, something that will happen no matter what. I'm going to say no matter what, you become kind of like part of the mangrove becomes part of your construction somehow.
I kind of had a similar thought, but that the monkey would permanently snatch something from you, that you would lose part of yourself from the monkey.
I was thinking the monkey would attack you.
You keep pressing that case, Fraser. No one can stop you. Drew, do you have an offer?
I was thinking like a shoot from the tree would get lodged in Corkluck too. So
yeah, it's kind of that's kind of the same as mine. Okay, what do you think, Brian?
All right. Well, a lot of people have said I'm part mangrove on my mom's side. I'll take this idea of being part tree.
Very good. And I think a dark die is automatically on the table because you're trying to escape from a thing that might attack you. So take it away. 2 light, 1 dark.
6 black.
6 dark. Your ruin goes up, but you are fully escaped and safe. Give me the scene.
Oh lordy. It's that hasty kind of pulling the canoe and terrified of the crocodile, but the monkey like hopping off of my head, hopping onto the tree, me trying to shush the monkey up the tree to keep the monkey safe, and just banging and busting off like little chips of porcelain on my shins as I'm trying to clamber into this mangrove. And in so doing, like, remember, I'm in that sense, you got like a tibia and a fibia, like pieces of mangrove are getting wedged through there and snapping off, but some of them are still alive and growing henceforth.
I like it. And I think
I'm gonna need a good condition.
yeah, that's good. Yeah, you can write that as a condition if you want, or you'll eventually write like, yeah, fuse with mangrove or however you want to write it. But I want to go back to Osto and Gleneth before you take off from the barge, because Osto, you discovered that the barge was transporting uh, uh, kids from the orphanage you grew up in. I'm curious how you know this. Like, what is the sign there?
It carries the little icon of Saint Agnes or Sister Agnete's home for wayward children.
Oh,
And
okay.
I knew some of the orphans had come by way of boat, but had never seen it.
Makes you wonder whether these orphans were going to Saint Agnete's or Saint Agnete's was sending them somewhere. Open question. I want to get everybody except for Corkuluk back to the hut, unless you two have anything else to do with the barge.
I don't have anything else to do, but I'm curious on the layout as we head back to camp. Would we not see the thrashing and or struggles?
But with Corkuluk and the I'm going to say no.
That was
right
all
now.
happening while I was we were dealing with my
Yeah,
first
yeah. I
thing.
think probably just like, and also I just think maybe like the tree might have just like gone to a place where, you know, that combined with like environmental noise, I think you just wouldn't have like put it together necessarily, unless Oster wants to call out in some way. But you could reach him just as easily from the camp as from the barge. So let's put the three of you together then: Osto, Gleneth, and Ethelinda. Ethelinda, you found your little lantern, and you've got the camp set up inside the hut, ready to go. Maybe put the cupboard on top of the trap door just to make sure that doesn't pop open again. Let's just have the scene with the three of you there.
I show you my lantern proudly.
I ooh and ah appropriately. No, what does the lantern? It's blue. That's very strange.
Asta will be dragging the chest up into the hut and just kind of drops it on the floor and looks up at Ethelinda and says, "We found something too."
What is it?
Heavy.
I don't know.
I'll stand back here.
I think we got all the snakes off.
If it's heavy, it must be expensive.
I wonder if that I couldn't take like a piece or a fragment of wood or something and start to like groove or pull out the wax from the seal around the lid.
Sure. Yeah. Then what? Once you do that, what would you do?
Investigate to see if it's locked or if it's just popping open. Like, is it wooden? Is it metal? What is it constructed from?
It's a like a probably wood, but like covered in leather and then sealed with wax. And the handles are metal. Once you like peel away the wax, it pops open easily. And inside you find a number of things actually. There's some coinage, which everybody loves. It's equal to 1 gold total in coinage. So whoever wants to keep the coinage, just say so, and you can put that in your gold. Your gold.
Osto dealt with the snakes. Osto is perfectly happy to have. You can have that, no problem.
There is also inside there are a few like interesting little objects in there. The first interesting object you see is a very small like blade carved from a gemstone of some sort, but it's like a sort of like a yellow gemstone, like citrine or something, right? And it's doesn't have a handle, or it looks like it has a tang, so it could go into a handle, but it's just the blade, and it's like about the size of a dagger, maybe a little shorter. And then you also find inside what appears to be a oh wait, Oh, yeah. There is a little amber bead about the size of about the dimensions of a quarter, but a bead. And inside of that bead, that amber bead, is a tiny bird skull. Also, in the chest is a blowgun made from a large crab leg, and it has a little bundle of darts that are sea urchin spines. And there is a scroll tube.
Well, was it worth the snakes? And I'm really investigating this bead with a bird skull. Like, how much larger and or smaller would it be than one of my marbles?
Oh, it's about the same size. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that if this was a movie, it'd be like intermittent cuts between us being like, ooh, ah, and Corkula being like, ah.
Corkula desperately trying to avoid this creature. It cuts back. Oh, look at this.
The crocodile just circling the base of the mangrove.
Exactly. Asta, what about that scroll tube?
Yeah, I think he'll open that up.
Inside, there's a piece of parchment. If you unroll it, it is a map. And it is a map to Seeker's Rest. It's a map of the Marsh Cradle. It has, obviously it can't be perfectly mapped, but basically what it has is large, like geographical, like not monuments, what's the word? Like
Landmarks?
Landmarks, thank you. Large like landmarks in the Marsh Cradle and Seeker's Rest. Now the thing about Seeker's Rest is it floats, right? But this seems to indicate like a pattern that that Seeker's Rest floats in, and it kind of passes by these landmarks. And so as long as you get within one of these landmarks, you should be able to suss out where Seeker's Rest is or is going to be, right? And so, yeah. The set goal was to locate the drifting mangrove city of Seeker's Rest. You'll be able to locate it with this map. Okay, so.
Given the sea urchin darts in the blowgun that was found under this wrecked barge, I feel like the name of the barge has to be the sea urchin, given that it was these wayward youths who were
Yes.
orphans on that barge. It has to be the sea urchin.
The pun, not the name, the pun.
Okay, so Corkalook, you have managed to get up in the tree. You may have to just stay there all night, unless you have another plan.
No, I like the image of me stuck in a mangrove at night with a golden monkey who is possibly angry at me.
Ethelinda, when you realize at a certain point that Corkalook has not returned, what do you do?
First of all, I'd like to spend a token to find something else in that chest.
Oh, something that the group missed, or something that got missed. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, maybe like a false bottom or something.
Yeah, you will also find. Oh, I like the false bottom idea. Inside is a clear glass bottle, jar or bottle, right, with a stopper sealed up, and the water inside has a single tiny horsefish, not horsefish, what do we call those?
Seahorse.
Seahorse, yeah, horsefish, a little tiny seahorse.
I was talking about swamp floppers earlier. So.
Fair enough. Yeah. A little tiny seahorse just bobbing in the water, and the water has this very interesting, like almost like iridescent glow to it. You can add that to your gear. Then once you realize Corklick has not come back, what do you do? Also, who's keeping the rest of that stuff? Is that just being kept like, is it going to be divided up yet? Are you waiting for Corklick to get back? What do we think?
Well, I was going to give first pick to the person who actually schlepped it out of the mud, but I'm very fascinated by this bead.
There's no objections. You should add that to your found equipment.
Delightful. And if no one wants the blade, I will be able to at some point construct a hilt for it. But unless somebody is really keen on it, I would happily take that too.
It looks
Was it a
cursed
blade
to
without
me.
a hilt or a hilt without a blade?
It's a blade without a hilt.
Ah, okay.
Made of carved from a yellow gemstone.
Everything looks cursed to you.
Everything is cursed. How far away was Corklick?
I mean, you'll be able to go out and find him. Everything's kind of happening in this like little small area that you're in.
Like, is it possible to use the lantern and my mirror to shine light around and look for him like a spotlight?
Oh, yeah. You just call out to him too. I mean, I think that'll work as well. It's not that far away.
Ethelinda has experience with guiding the ships to
That is
her
true.
in the
That
middle
is
of
something
the
you've done
void.
before. Yeah.
Yeah, I call out, follow the light, Corklick.
Who's keeping the crab leg blow dart gun?
I think Asta will hold on to that for now.
Okay, so Ethelinda, make a hunt roll.
Alrighty. Do I rolled 2 because I used my equipment?
Yes, of course.
6.
Nice. Take your token. You absolutely locate Corklick. You will eventually see in the moonlight. The mangrove eventually moves into a shaft of moonlight, so you can get a good view of it, and you see Corklick in the branches. As it very, very slowly glides by.
And also, is the glass jar is worth money or is it not worth money?
It's worth 1 gold. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
All these items are worth 1 gold to the right buyer. So.
Okay. Is Corklick within shouting distance? Can we converse?
Yeah, if you're into shouting right now in the Marsh Cradle, by all means.
Yeah, that sounds a good idea. I'll shout.
It'll be fun to see in any case.
Exactly. I shout and say, "Why are you up there? Come have dinner."
I
I will call back in Golden Monkey and say, crocodiles everywhere. It's not safe to have dinner right now.
And I guess you don't eat either, do you?
I don't even know. I make motions about eating. I was questioning whether do I even have lungs to use a blow dart gun if it came down to it. I don't know.
All right.
Is this canoe still intact? Am I close enough I can make a run for it?
The canoe's fine. Yeah, if you just want to wait for a little while, the thing will move on, and you'll be able to get in, and you can paddle back to camp if you want.
Yeah.
Well, I was thinking we could even distract the alligators with the dead body of the big blubberfish thing.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe
yeah,
go after
that's good. Yeah. I don't think I need a roll. I like this bit of fiction though. Is that what you do, Ethelinda? Do you all the carcass and?
Yeah, I tell people to give me a hand because I'm sure it's quite big.
I take up the rump past the dorsal fin and I'm just trying to shove through the mud.
Nice, good.
Before we do the bait and switch, is there anything worth exploring in the mangrove? Are there cool carved signs in the bark or a multitude of golden monkeys?
The monkey has a stash because it puts the spike in the stash. Do you want to look at the monkey's stash?
I'm going to look, but with polite monkey manners. Like I'm not going to steal your stash, monkey. I want to add another thing to it. I'll even dig in my backpack and find something good to give the monkey.
He will hesitantly let you look, and with trepidation, you are able to determine there's a bunch of junk that's not of any value to anybody, but the monkey has a book In its stash, the book is bound in faded green leather and has gold trim, and it's called Eternal Glory.
All right. I'm going to take out my monstrous wooden mask and offer a little gesture trade to the monkey here. Be like, mask, book.
Since you have the trading skill now, yes, I'll let you do it. Yes. If not for that, I would probably make you work a little harder, but since you have the trading skill, you can trade the mask for the book.
All right. Tell me one more time the title. Eternal what?
Eternal Glory.
Eternal Glory. Anything to learn in a quick glance, or does it need time to?
No, a quick glance. It's a book of legendary heroes and their deeds.
All right. Well, over the campfire later, I'll read people some bedtime stories from it and see how it goes.
Indeed. So let's fast forward to everybody being at camp. Assuming you set a watch, you could. I think we'll just do like, if you're going to get an early start, I think 3 watches is sufficient. Somebody can sleep all night. Who's going to be on the first watch?
I don't mind.
Okay. Glynneth. I'm going to suggest that you maybe during your watch picked up Corkalick's new book and flipped through the pages and give them a look.
No, what actually happened is while he was reading bedtime stories to the rest of us, I'm hurling a marble at him, trying to get him to like just shush. And then when he's finally done with it, I take it back from him so he can't do it again tomorrow night.
Good. But do you give it a peruse then?
Yes, sure. Yes, I will look through, leaf through to see what marvelous heroes lay in it.
I think one of the heroes speaks to you. Their story speaks to you in some way. If you can think of a name, tell me the name. But otherwise, just tell me what the story is about the hero that stuck out to you.
I think the reason I was casting marbles at Corkluck is he kept picking characters that were haplessly stumbling through to their success, which I found irritating because I'm very methodical in how I, very practical. And so the hero's story that spoke to me was of a beast-bitten creature who spent years trying to overcome the stigma and eventually through great deeds was able to find acclaim and glory.
I love it. Good. Your watch otherwise passes by without incident. Who's next on watch?
I like to watch.
Okay, Ethelinda. Ethelinda, tell me about how. Do you have the egg on you?
Oh, yes.
Now that you're under the night sky of the Marsh Cradle, this egg, I'll remind you, it's like mirror glass, but like an egg, and good size. I'm curious, in what ways does the egg change, or how does it otherwise react to the starlight of the Marsh Cradle?
Oh, maybe it reflects, like it is a mirror and it reflects the light from the stars, but the constellations it shows are the ones that were in the journal. Like they make no sense. It reflects a different night sky.
Oh, interesting. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I like that. Your watch passes without incident otherwise. Who's next on watch? Korpluk, you were snapped out of another edition of the birthing dream. What woke you up early? What did you give birth to at the end of the dream?
A beetle with a human face.
Any particular human?
Maybe Sir Peregrine's face, if we want to cycle this back to an earlier storyline. I'm open to other ideas if somebody has something more compelling.
Oh no, I think it's great. Dreams don't have to make any like immediate sense. Asta, what did you dream about?
The barge and his childhood, except instead of the orphanage, it was all took place in the barge.
The next morning, you can get up, you can gather your things, head out of the hut, get the canoes dried out and ready to carry on. I don't think I don't have any interest in role-playing the journey to Seeker's Rest. Having the map is sufficient to get you there. Seeker's Rest, you're following the map as best you can, trying to get on this same path that Seeker's Rest is supposed to be on, passing by these various unmoving landmarks. I'd like for each of you just to say what one of the landmarks is. I think that would be interesting to see. Just something big, noticeable, importantly does not move, and is in the Marsh Cradle. Can be something historical, can be something natural, can be something totally alien. Yeah.
I like the idea that one of the floating mangroves was actually part of a collision with not necessarily a barge, but like a 3 or a 4 person boat that kind of impacted into that tree, and that tree fell over, and now both are permanently there. And again, the mushrooms, but that would be a very permanent, stable kind of landmark, noticeable. But that boat itself would be frightening, like carnival colors compared to the swamp, like very standoutish.
That's great. Thank you.
I think there's a section of trees that they've kind of impaled an older campsite in a way that almost makes one think that like the trees erupted from the ground overnight while the people were perhaps camping. And so you can see the tents kind of stretched around the branches and the trunks of these trees.
Nice.
Sounds cursed. I think there's a landmark that's below in the water, and it's like a tongue of light, which is like glowing fungus. That's like a road that leads you on.
Nice.
I'm picturing something akin to a termite mound. Perhaps it's a different sort of insect, but something that floods out and devours nearby mangroves, toppling them periodically, laterally into the marsh.
Nice. I like it. That's great. And so for a time you're trying to follow this path as best you can. This warm mist sort of like comes and goes throughout. And eventually emerging from the mist is an island formed entirely of mangroves, a wall of interwoven roots and branches sort of rising up from the water. Its upper tiers vanish into the fog. You can see from where you're at rope ladders and driftwood walkways jutting out in every direction. There are glowing lanterns and tent flaps hanging throughout the roots and branches. And you peek here and there part of the maze work of tunnels and chambers within the density of this island. Small coracles and heavy canoes line the piers that have been constructed around the island. And you see a few fishing poles being tended to by goblin folk and others who have made their home in Seeker's Rest. The set goal of Seeker's Rest is earn acceptance as visitors to the city. I'll type that for you. And so as you're sort of like paddling closer and closer, getting to a pier perhaps, you see a few things that catch your eye. There's a turtle shell coracle, possibly newly repaired, being lowered into the water, and the goblins are checking it. And when it seems to float, they let up a cheer that it is indeed floating. At another point, you see a young goblin feeding scraps to her blue lobster that she keeps on a leash. There is a fisherman wrestling with a captured squid, very large squid, just this tug of war between land and sea, right? And as you get closer and closer, you're inundated with the smell of grilling seafood, of spices, of seaweed. And you get to the pier, and a couple of goblins will come out and help you up. Our goblins here, generally speaking, are about 3 feet high or so. They look a lot like Scum, your former companion. They have kind of bat ears, and they are various shades of green, purple, even some unusual colors that you wouldn't have expected, like pinks and things like that. But they'll help you tie up the canoes and get out. And I guess I just want to end the session by asking each of you a question about your initial foray into Seeker's Rest as you sort of make your way off the pier, make your way to some of the little like tunnels and things that lead you to the interior parts of the mangrove city. Osto, we'll come back to Osto. Gleneth, you are Feyborn, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious, one, if the Feyborn have any kind of hereditary connection to goblins. Whether they do or not, I'd like to know, like, what do you see in Seeker's Rest that reminds you of where you came from?
I imagine while the Fae do have some lore as far as, because we're statuistically, I'm probably only a foot taller than anybody else here. I'm still fairly minute, but I didn't grow up amongst the Fae, and so their ideas of goblins being lesser or corrupted ideas of Fae or somehow the hillbilly cousins doesn't really ring true to me. I'm filled with curiosity of just, well, what could this be? And I think my first foray into the city, I'd immediately gravitate my own self to whatever cellars or commerce or any kind of trading and or town square as there would be. And I imagine that that would just be familiar sight because commerce is kind of the same in every culture.
That's good. Thank you. Ethelinda, we've established already, you might have missed it, but we established that this, wherever this temple is, it's up above somewhere. It's hard to see because the mist and the fog, but that apparently there's supposed to be a star inside the skull of the whale that is their temple, right? And I'm curious, you will see evidence as you make your way into Seeker's Rest that that these people respect the stars. They either have a connection to the stars or they respect the stars in some way. And it's something that you would notice. What do you notice? How do you know this?
I think the village, the layout, kind of like a city planner would do, is in a specific constellation.
Nice, I like that. And that's definitely something only you would notice, probably, right? Korkalek, there are mannequins here. You see a fair number of them. You pass, I mean, certainly more than you see in other places you've been. I'm curious though, how are the mannequins here different?
Overgrown with moss, some parts replaced with crab chitin. And they seem to walk with their spine at a different angle.
Yes. And Osto, the presence of the map to Seeker's Rest indicates possibly that, well, I don't know what it indicates, because if it wasn't in a sealed chest, it would probably indicate that the barge was on its way to Seeker's Rest. But it was in a sealed chest. That means they weren't referring to it. So they may not even know about Seeker's Rest. Or possibly they were taking it from Seeker's Rest to give to someone else. I don't know. But I do want to hear your theories. Why might the orphanage either have been leaving or going to Seeker's Rest?
Being an orphanage, they are always low on funds, and I think maybe Osto is wondering if they didn't kind of make the map or find Seeker's Rest, make the map with the intention of selling its location.
Yeah, that's good. They might have probably been trying to sell the items inside the chest too, right? That makes a lot of sense. We'll conclude the session there. Let's do Stars and Wishes. Stars and Wishes is our debrief technique, our procedure. Stars are things that you enjoyed about the session, either scenes or bits of role play or something about the adventure itself that was really appealing to you, and you can say as many as you wish. And then wishes are things that you hope to see next time. So whoever wants to, once you've thought of your stars and wishes, or just your stars or your wishes, say so and tell us.
I thought there's so many good things, like it's hard to pick out as anything that wasn't really cool. There's so much interesting things happening. I really like the new character. I really like all the cool things that we found. This whole scenario seems pretty interesting. I'm into the concept of non-evil goblins, and I really like especially all the treasures that I found. Wish is one more of like a curiosity, if there's something more to do with the golden monkeys, or if it's just a interesting thing that was there, or if there's more going on with this monkey, I guess, especially now that it has a metal spike.
Very good indeed. Who wants to go next? Thank you. Who wants to go next? Sure, Sarah.
I felt like you're completely correct as a star. The treasure list was so entertaining. Just the depth of which you can create your own narrative from the treasure you found is really potent, for sure. I also love just the nature of coming in as a new character to your very established characters, just knowing, okay, well, as a beast bitten, he might also be prone to be bitten by other things, and being bitten by a goat, for instance, or just any other creature he comes across. That's charming and delightful, and I really look forward to seeing that come out in the future. For wishes, specifically I'm also really into the positivity of goblin culture. I'm curious if this place is a bastion of where goblins have created an environment in which they have a culture, and how they share that with others, whether it be mannequins or that. So that'd be my wish for the future.
Fantastic. Thank you. Brian or Drew?
Yeah, it's always fun to get a new character in the group and see how all the interactions change and flow, and see the new perspectives. And so it's fun to have Gleneth with us, and also fun that this is Gleneth's first adventure with us. It's seeing everyone kind of out of their element. It's not just another, well, not that we've done too many straight up dungeons, but this is a very different environment than what we're used to. So it'll have lots of opportunity for fun roleplay moments. And wishes, I am looking forward to kind of digging into the orphanage, if there are any ties to the Seeker's Rest community. That should be fun. And also more things that could be cursed.
Sounds good. Brian, do you want to go?
Yeah. It's just a scenario rich with texture. Like everything feels tangible and almost like it's got an odor in this, which is nice. I too love the idea of revisiting of what goblins are, and I will skip a long story for another day. But I ran a middle school role-playing club and tried to offer up non-violent conflict, and only one kid got all the hints I was dropping, and finally in the middle of the giant battle yelled out "Parley!" and everybody stopped fighting and talked to the goblins. And so that makes me really looking forward to see Seeker's Rest and see, this version of a goblin community and what it is. I'm looking forward to seeing what that is.
Awesome. My stars, I really enjoyed we spent a lot of time on that first set, the Marsh Cradle set, but I'm glad we did, because I think we got a really good, it felt like a good opportunity to get Gleneth into the group and kind of figure out what Gleneth is about and how Gleneth solves problems without the sort of dizzying wonder of Seeker's Rest, it's kind of like you get a chance to kind of breathe as a group a little bit before you have to go do that, And so really enjoyed that. I thought all the characters did great. I loved all the role play. I loved all the scenes. Gleneth was very fun to get to know. Really enjoyed all that. I love this scenario. This incursion is really, really good. I mean, it won the contest last year. It's a good incursion. It has so much texture and so much beauty and so much and such an interesting point of view that I think you don't get too often in stuff like this. So I'm delighted that it continues to be this very satisfying kind of experience. In terms of wishes, I'm really interested to see how the module or the incursion really wants you to sort of become not integrated necessarily with Seeker's Rest, but to sort of be to learn Seeker's Rest, right? It wants you to learn about Seeker's Rest and try to be at least sort of respectful or part of the environment, right? And it doesn't mean there's not danger. There's certainly things to do. There are adventures to be had, but it's just, I'm curious to see how you all do that. And I'm curious to see, I'm also very curious to I'm interested in the sort of you know, you all just basically got back from a couple of adventures in Umbrid, and in particular, you were around lots of very rich, high society, cunning, like like many bad, horrible people, many cruel, evil people, many people who are just like kind of decadently wealthy. And this is just such a departure from that kind of the themes that we were kind of doing before. And so I'm just really interested to see how that sort of feels in play, like to have these two like quite different thematic ideas, you know, kind of going on. And so, yeah, I'm really looking forward to finishing it up or to keep going. Yeah, I don't think I have anything else though. Thank you all so much. It was great to meet you, Sarah. Thank you for joining us. And it was a lot of fun to play with you and with everybody. Let's stop the recording now.